Uh, hey, what's up? Now I will show you how we can create a decorator that checks the uniqueness of this value from the database, which will be an asynchronous decorator, which will be very interesting, I believe. And we will make it dynamic so it will work on any property and on any entity. So first thing, I will create a file called isUnique.custom.ts, and I will make the things that we already do a little bit more faster. So I will import from the class validator the validator arguments, the options, and the register decorator function. And what I will do, I will export function, which is our decorator. I won't use a class for this one. I will call it isUnique.custom, and this accepts the validation options, which is conditional. And I will put the I will just put the service. I will put the service at the start. This is a function. You should always pass the service class. I'm not sure what is the correct type, but adding a function will work because classes are constructor functions. Instead of typing any, just add a function. You can do that. And now what I will do, I will return the same thing we did in the previous video. This function will have the object, and we will reference the constructor function from that object, and this is the property name we are validating. Now let's call this. Target will be the object constructor. Let me just copy this. And the property name, same thing, so I won't repeat it, same as this. 1 second, same as this. And the options will be the validation options, which are optional, and the validator, this will be object this time. And I will create a validate function. This will be asynchronous, and it will accept the value. I will call it to be unique, and it's from type string. And this is the args, the validation arguments, the type for that. So const service, I'll call it ser, and this will returns a boolean, or in this case a promise that resolves a boolean. Will be the service, an instance from the service you provided that class for, or you will pass, for example, the user service, and I will get the instance. Remember, in our app.ts, we register this service. We register an instance for each service we have. Right now we only have the user service, but all our services that we will inject or provide in this container should be registered. So what I will do, I will just get that instance. I will just destruct the container, get that service, or get that instance from the container. And you can actually put this as base service and pass the type any. And now I will use, if you go to the base service, I will use this function. Now I already made the change, but I'll just explain it. So this was only like this, and remove all of this. This is how this used to look like, and also remove this. So what I will do, if you passed a where condition, I will use that. If you do not, I will just get by ID. So let's just implement this. So where, and this is optional. It's from type object literal. You can also pass object like this, but object literal means it's just a normal object like this, this type. So what I will do, I will check if and else. So if we have a where condition, just pass it to the where property here like this. You can actually make a shortcut like this, or else just return and find ID. So this will fail if nothing found, which is very nice because we can now wrap this in a try catch, and just try to get the entity that have that value we are trying to check if it's unique or not. So get by ID, pass null for the ID, we don't care about that. For the where, you need to pass the property name. We can get this and resolve it as a key like this. So args dot property and put them inside brackets, and this will be to be unique. This is the value. For example, if we decorate this decorator over the email in the user, this will be where email equal the value that the user sent. So if this throws an error, which means it did not find anything, you can just return true, which means this is valid. You can proceed with storing the user data, and we actually don't care about the error, so you can remove it. And if this just returns some data, did not throw an error, return false, like this. And yeah. Now the second thing we will define is the default message. This also will accept an argument and returns a string. I will just get the property name, just like we did in the date, and I will put that this property already exists in the entity for then dash not unique, and this is an asynchronous, so pass through synchronous decorator. So let's export that from our index to TypeScript, and let's use it in our users entity. So it's imported from here. Now you need to pass to one thing at least here. It's the service. So I imported the user service from here, and I will just pass it, and that should be it. And remember, we can actually get an instance because we registered that in our app.ts using this container. So this container holds an instance. If you go to index in our services, we actually have an array of services, the classes, and we are creating an instance for each one in our app.ts and passing the DB context. Okay, so npm run dev. Let's go and now try to submit. So let's create this user. This should work fine. And let's try to create another user with the same email. We should see that email already exists in this entity, which is very nice. Another email. This would work. Yeah, if you submit the same email again, this won't work. I mean, and actually to prove to you that this is dynamic and it will work with any property on any entity, as far if the entity service is registered in our container, you can actually put this in our last name, and this will validate the uniqueness of the last names. Let's just go now. So remember, we are dropping everything, so I can create the user again since now the database is empty. So the email and the last name, I will change the email to something new, but the last name will stay the same. Now if I send, last name already exists in this entity, not unique, which is very nice. So let me now make the email and the last name both exist. So you'll see that the last name already exists and the email already exists. Yeah, I think this is a really interesting example or use case, and you will definitely need this. So yeah, thank you.